Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Nowadays we are discussing about quantitative data analysis, and in our previous lecture we have discussed about how to conduct quantitative analysis and what are the things that you have to consider before conducting quantitative analysis. And four things that we have seen in our previous lecture were type of data, that is the scale of measurement, format in which your data will be input into the analysis of software, impact of data coding on subsequent analysis for different types of data that we have, and methods you intend to use to check data for errors. And we have seen that a scale of measurement definitely have an impact on how your data should be entered, how it can help you understand your data, and how it can help you to choose what kind of software and analysis you are going to use. And we have seen through our various slides and learnings that we have had ordinal data, we have had discrete, we have had ranked, categorical, and these kind of scale of measurements based on which we can do one or the other kind of data analysis. Dichotomous was one of the things that we have discussed also, in which we have male and female, and if we code them, male is equal to 1 and female is equal to 2, so we make them dichotomous. They are dichotomous, and we give them coding according to our ease, and then these coding help us to understand, to make us understand what kind of data analysis we are intending to do. And I've also discussed, not in very detail, but just told you that we have had SPSS, eViews, Stata, and NVivo. These are the software that are used. Normally, SPSS, eViews, and Stata are used for quantitative analysis, while NVivo is used for qualitative analysis. Qualitative analysis is another topic that we'll discuss in our future lectures. But nowadays, we are focusing on quantitative data. We have also discussed that it can be grouped into two distinctly, one in categorical, the other is numerical. Categorical data refers to data whose values can't be measured, and we have seen that if it is a car, so where you will go for hatchback, or you go for estate, or you go for saloon. And this is basically cannot be numerically measured. You categorize them, and based on that you give a coding to each of the category, and based on that you can develop the data sets or the information for your analysis according to characteristics that identify or describe the variable or placed in ranked order. We can rank them, and we have seen examples of rank also in our previous lecture. Numerical data we have discussed are sometimes termed as quantifiable, and it is those whose values are measured or counted numerically as quantities. So how many, let's say, how much is your consumption per day of, let's say, fruits, how much is your consumption of vegetables per day, and you can measure them. Either it is 1 gram, 200 gram, 300 gram, 1 kilo, 5 kilo, 10 kilo, 2 kilo, whatever it is, it can be measured numerically, and it can be measured in quantities. So you can eat 2 kilos, you can eat 3 kilos. This is how you can have numerical data. Numerical data, it is therefore is more precise than categorical data, as you can assign each data value a position on a numerical scale. So you can draw a numerical scale, and on that scale you can give each data a separate value. For example, if we have a simple graph of, let's say, GDP for the years, each and 5-year interval. So it's for 1980, it is for 85, it is for 90, it is for 95, and then you have 2000, and you can also have 2005 and 2010. So what is Pakistan's GDP in various time periods? So what it was in 1980, what it was in 1985, 1990, 95, 2000, 2005 and 2010. So this is simply tells us that numerical values are precise than categorical value, and you can assign each value a position on numerical scale. So this is our numerical scale. This is y-axis, and we have had year or time on our x-axis. And on y-axis we have a numerical scale which tells us that how much was the GDP in, let's say, Pakistan rupees, or in per capita rupees, or US dollars, the purchasing power parity. So whatever unit we used, we can plot each value for particular year on numerical scale, and we can get a nice graph out of it. While this is not possible when you have categories like hatchback, saloon, and estate. So now it is difficult for you as a researcher that how you can assign them a value on numerical scale. Suppose you want to see how many respondents in your data have which kind of car. So we have discussed yesterday also that you can have hatchback, you can have saloon, and you can have estate, and you can divide them into, let's say, gender, male, female, or you can divide them in according to level of income. So it's first, second, third, fourth income category. And now if you have given hatchback a number of 1, saloon number of 2, estate a number of 3, then you will be in a position to actually count them. So whenever somebody says hatchback, you write 1, saloon 2, estate 3, hatchback 1, 1, 1, saloon 2, 2, 2, estate 3, 3, 3. So this is how in your total respondents you can count that how many of them went for hatchback. If you are doing some analysis like which car characteristics likes you the most, hatchback, estate, saloon, whatever, and then you give them a nice meaning to that data by actually coding them in a way that you understand what is the meaning of that. So coding is also very important thing we have also discussed in our previous lecture. It also means that you can analyze these data using a far wider range of statistics. So you have seen that with this GDP data, you are in a good position actually to decide about how and where you want to do what kind of analysis. For example, this is how you made graph. But if you want to make a table for GDP, so you can also make a table for GDP. So this is your variable GDP. Here you can also make it GDP per capita, and here you can have your year data. So it is 1985 90, 95, 2000, 2005 and 2010, and here you can put in front of every year you can put GDP and GDP per capita. So you can either tabulate them, you can either graph them with not only this line graph, but you can make histogram, you can make bar gram, you can make any kind of diagram that any kind of graph that you want to make. That is the ease when your data is numerical. Well, that's not the easy thing when your data is categorical. There are two possible ways of subdividing numerical data into interval or ratio data, or alternatively into continuous or discrete data. And we have also seen the discussion about continuous, discrete, alternative and ratio data. So we have discussed about centigrade example, in which we have seen that there is a place where we have 20 degrees centigrade and we have 30 degrees centigrade. So we can take interval between them is 10 degrees centigrade, but we cannot say 30 is less than or more than or something like that. But for example, ratio, we can do these things. And we have discussed the example of profit. And if an organization or a company is earning, let's say, $300 or 300 rupees this year, and then next year or this month or next month, and next month if the company is earning 600, then the profit is almost doubled in a month. And today we are going to start the quantitative data. Yesterday we have seen this table relatively simply, but today we want to see it again, that what kind of data is available and what kind of analysis we can do. First, you have to see that we have on our very right side, it is saying that increasing precision if you move from upper to lower portion, and the upper portion is descriptive or dichotomous data. Descriptive or dichotomous data is male, female. Nominal data case, ranked, ordinal order, continuous data, and then you have discrete data. And within discrete data, we have discussed that it might be the, for example, distance. If you want to have a biryani or pizza and you have a delivery somewhere close to your home, the distance between the delivery point and your home is the distance, which is actually the discrete number and which shows us the discrete data. Same is the case with, this is the right hand side, and increasing precision moves when you come to the bottom side. And if you go to the left side, you can also see that we have categorical data. And within categorical, we have seen that a car can be hatchback, it can be saloon, or it can be estate. So these are three characteristics that can be categorized into different categories for a car. It is less precise, as we have already discussed, versus as we move further and we come up to the numerical data, and we have seen consumption, income, or any other thing can be a numerical data. So we have seen also the example of income and consumption in terms of gender, in terms of various income group and all that, and that's how, if we have numerical data, our level of precision increased. And now we will see this table again. So the table starts when you obtain a data for a variable. Once through using a questionnaire or interview or observation or survey, you are in a position to collect data once your data is obtained for particular variable, then your process starts and you are moving this way and you are coming to another question. So once your data is obtained, now you ask yourself a question. Can the data be measured numerically as quantities? Whether you are in a position to measure it quantitatively? If yes, your data is numerical. If no, it might be that it is categorical. And if it is numerical, then you move this way. If it is categorical, you move this way. So let's take first numerical. If your data is numerical, then you ask this question for yourself. Can the relative difference between two data values be calculated? If you say no, then your data is interval data. If you say yes, then your data is ratio data. And if your data is categorical in your first question, then you ask yourself another question, that can the data be classified into more than two categories? If no, then it is descriptive or dichotomous table or dichotomous data, in which we have, for example, male and female. This is the example of dichotomous data. If it cannot, if yes, it can be classified into more than two sets, then you will ask yourself, can these sets be placed in rank order? If these can be placed in rank order, then your data is ranked or ordinal data. If they cannot, then your data is nominal or descriptive data. So now, once you decided on numerical side that the data is interval or ratio, then you move further and ask yourself a question, can the data theoretically take any value within a range? If no, then it is a discrete data. If yes, then it is a continuous data. So these are the various types of data sets that you can come up with when you're collecting data for your questionnaire, because you're asking about income, you're asking about age group, you're asking about height, you're asking about consumption pattern, you're asking about marital status, you're asking about gender. All these things gives you various answers, and based on coding you can describe them into either dichotomous or descriptive, either nominal or continuous, interval or ratio, discrete or continuous. And this is how you can be in a better position to discuss your data, what kind of data sets you have, and how you can be in a good position to analyze these data sets. The thing that starts from the beginning is that you first have to obtain data for a variable, and then you have to decide whether it is categorical and numerical. If it is categorical, then whether it is descriptive dichotomous, descriptive nominal, or ranked ordinal. If it is numerical, then it is interval or ratio, or it is continuous or discrete. So if you see within this graph, we have had two separate categories. What is these separate categories? I'll just summarize it here, that numerical data can be either interval or ratio, and in yesterday's lecture we have discussed both interval and ratio. And within interval and ratio we can have either continuous or discrete data. So these are the data types, 4 data types that can come up under numerical data sets. Either numerical data can be interval or ratio, either numerical data can be continuous or discrete. And we have seen discrete example of discrete, we have seen example of continuous, we have seen example of interval and ratio, and these are basically the data sets that come under numerical. Now let's see what comes under categorical data. So categorical data actually goes either to dichotomous, and if it is not, then it might go to nominal, and either nominal or ranked. Or ordinal. Why am I writing both names? So that you can understand if somebody asks you either it is a ranked or an ordinal, so you must know both are same. So these are the three data sets that we can have under our categorical categories. So in total we can have 7 kind of data sets within 2 broader categories, that is categorical and numerical. We have categorical and numerical data. So data can be divided into either categorical or numerical, and within numerical and categorical we will see what we can have. So categorical data can be dichotomous, nominal or ranked. Categorical data is dichotomous, ranked, ordinal and nominal, while numerical data can be interval and ratio, interval, ratio, or continuous discrete. So these are 7 types of data sets that you can get when you collect your data using questionnaire or any other way of collecting primary data. So already collected primary data, if somebody is using as secondary information, then for that particular researcher this data becomes secondary. So secondary data can also have these kind of broader categories for analysis. If you have collected data which is rich enough to be analyzed by some other researchers, then for them it might not be primary because they are not involved in collecting the information at first hand. So what you can do, you basically give them the data, but for them that data might not be primary but secondary, but they can also have these categories. So secondary data can also get one of these categories, and you can have some quantitative data level analysis for that. Why I'm focusing on these things? Because when you have selected your research strategy, when you have chosen your sample size, way of collecting data, and decided about whether you go for interview, observation or questionnaire, then it is good for you to see what kind of questions you are asking, what kind of answers you will get for these kind of questions, and how these questions can help you to analyze your data in a way that makes sense for you. Before we go into further detail, let's have a look at this table again and see the difference between these data sets. So we have categorical and we have numerical. So let me delete these things first, and now we are in a position to see that the categorical data, which is this data, has these 4 level of data, while numerical data has these 2 at first stage and then these 2 at second stage. Why you have these differences in data? So let's take the example of numerical data. When you get a data which is having numerical values, you basically ask question, if you want to calculate differences, can you calculate differences or not? If you can calculate differences, so can the relative difference between 2 data variables can be calculated? If it is able to calculate, then we call it ratio data. And for ratio data, we have example of profit, for example, where we have seen done 300 in month of January, but 600 in month of Feb. So 3 and 6, so the relative difference is almost 300, which is double than the previous one. So what you can say easily is that you can calculate the relative difference. But if you cannot calculate the relative difference, you can call it interval. So like 20 degrees centigrade versus 30 degrees centigrade. You can calculate that the difference is 10 degrees centigrade, but that 10 degree doesn't have any interpretation. So that's why you call it interval. And within these 2 data set, if the data is theoretically take any value within a given range, if it can get any value within the given range, then it is called continuous data, like income. Or when it can get not any value, then it calls discrete data, that is distance of delivery point from your house, let's say 3.5 kilometer. So these are the examples of numerical data and its various form that it can take. If you can answer for relative difference as yes, then you can have ratio data. If it is no, then you have interval data. And within that, if you can say that the data can take any theoretical value within a given range, if your answer is yes, it is continuous. If your answer is no, it is discrete data. Let me delete all, and now we can see what is the categorical data. So you ask whether you can be classified data into 2 or more than 2 sets. If your answer is no, that you cannot divide it into 2 or more than 2 sets, like female male, then your data is basically dichotomous. But if you can make it more than 2, then you can definitely ask whether you can make it more than 2, how this set can be placed as rank them, or as nominal order. So rank we have also studied, that your CGPA can be ranked accordingly, and then you can get one or the other rank. So it can be an ordinal data, and there are other examples that we have discussed. So we have to emphasize, we have to understand that these two broader categories of data, that is categorical and numerical, are divided into various other categories based on the analysis that you can conduct from that data set. If you can take difference, it can be ratio. If you cannot take difference, it can be interval. If the data can take any theoretical value within a given range, it can be continuous. If it is not, then it is a discrete data. So this is how you can describe numerical data into various form, while categorical data can also take various form. And why we are emphasizing on that? Because whenever you get data, the data can be any of these form. The data can be in any of these forms, and these forms have different interpretation when it comes to analysis. And we have seen in our previous example where we have made some graphs that you can give rank to hatchback, saloon and estate. But for example, for GDP, you can easily make graphs, you can easily make tables, you can easily take ratios or differences. So numerical data is relatively nice in the sense that you can make as much kind of analysis as you want. But with categorical data, you have to be very precise and clear in your understanding for the data. Secondly, you have to code them. The coding of the data must be outstanding. And when you enter the data in your Excel sheet or any other software that you are using, you must be very careful so that you don't be trapped in data. This is how these data sets can help us understand what kind of variables we have, what kind of analysis we can do, and how this simple analysis will help us increase our understanding of particular phenomena that is we can observe in the data we have with us. Simplifying this, we have also discussed that categorical can be dichotomous, ranked or nominal, and numerical can be interval or ratio, continuous or discrete. So now we talk about how do we design diagrams and tables. If we want to design diagrams and tables, how do we design them? Designing diagrams and tables. What are the important aspects that we have to keep in our mind when we are designing diagrams and tables? For example, for both diagrams and table, we have to keep these following points in our mind. Number one, does it have a brief but clear and descriptive title? So the thing that is important is title, which must be brief and descriptive. And we will see with examples what we mean by brief and descriptive. Are the units of measurement used, stated clearly? Units of measurements. For example, in our example of GDP and year, what we missed here to write, what is it when we write 80, 85, 90, 95? What is it? Is it value or is it time? So if it is value, it might be 80 rupees, but if it is time, then it might be 1980. So this we have to understand clearly, that what is the unit of measurement. So what does GDP means? Is it in local currency units like Pak rupees. It is purchasing power parity, which is commonly used to convert your GDP into international comparative figures, or is it in US dollars? So here we did not mention when we made this graph. So we have to understand clearly that what are the units of measurement that we are using, and we have to state them clearly. Are the sources of data used is stated clearly? For example, when we made this graph, does in the end of the graph we show the source which tells us where do I get this data figures? Where do I get the GDP? Either it is from Economic Survey, either it is from Ministry of Finance Pakistan, it is from World Development Indicators, it is from UNDP, or any other source. So we have to clearly identify where do we get the numbers of GDP from. And also within this, if you are writing Economic Survey of Pakistan, you have written the source, but still ambiguity remains that you have to mention whether this Economic Survey of Pakistan is for 2005-06 or is it for 2011-12. You have to mention the source and reference carefully, which must not remain ambiguous. Are there notes to explain abbreviations and unusual terminology? For example, you have said GDP. So GDP is what? Great Depression in Pakistan, Great Deteriorating Phenomena, Gross Domestic Product, or what? So you have to explain. For example, GDP is not a good example because most of the people know that GDP stands for national income, but in the end, if you are using any such abbreviation or terminology, you have to explain that, for example, GDP means gross domestic product. This is how you will be in a position to give your table and figure a nice outlook which can be self-explanatory and understandable. Does it state the size of the sample on which the values in the table are based? Whether if you're using microdata or primary data, does it explains the size of the sample? So for example, if you're making a table as we made last time, so gender, male, female, and you have had 100 male, 100 female, but how many is your total observation that you have to mention? And in this case it is 200. So out of 200, 50% are male, 50% are female. So sample size from which you have collected data must be explained nicely and easily so that people can understand what are you talking about. How much was your sample size and how it helps to make things clear when you graph them, when you provide them a table, when you provide a bar diagram, histogram, or any such sort of graph or table. So few things that we have learned from this slide are that you have to have a brief and descriptive title of your table and graph, units of measurements within table or within graph. You have to clearly explain sources of data at the end of the table, below where the table ends, or at the end of the graph where the graph ends. You should explain where you have taken the data from, and you have to explain if there is any abbreviation used or unusual terminology that you are using so that people can understand what does that mean. and finally you have to explain or state the sample size from which or on which these table values are based. So you have to keep these points in mind while you are making any of your table and graph. And in the next slides we will definitely see how graphs and tables are made, what simple mistakes we do when we make graph, and how to avoid these mistakes so that we can make them more presentable and we can make them more understandable. And this also helps if you want to send some of your research papers or work to get it published in decent journal. Secondly, this also helps your dissertation to be accepted easily, and you might get good marks relative to those who don't take care of these simple things while writing dissertation and explaining simple results. So for example, this is one example that we have to keep in our mind while looking at, and this is just to give you an idea of what is it. It is basically data of let me write it here, remittances coming to Pakistan from across globe. Number of Pakistanis are serving outside Pakistan, in Middle East, in Africa, in North America, in Canada, in Australia and some other places, and they are sending money back home. So how do we in a position to plot them and compare them? So number one, what we have did is we have migrant labor force from West Asia. West Asia is basically the Middle Eastern countries, and remittances from West Asia. So this is a graph which is for Pakistan and which is actually trying to correlate that how many people have migrated from Pakistan over a period of time and how much remittances we are getting from those migrants over a period of time. And if we see from this graph, we are getting kind of relatively gradually increasing trend for migrants, especially to Middle East, and also a sharp increase versus stagnation to another sharp increase. So this is the time when we had 9/11, and this is the time when we had oil boom. The prices of oil increased, oil economy is grown up, they need more manpower in human resources. Because they were in Middle East, Pakistan was one of the close neighbor to these Middle Eastern countries. So many Pakistanis flew to these countries to find some golden pastures, and that is how this era of 1970s, especially after 1973's crisis, have seen a huge boom in remittances within Pakistan. After that, it remains relatively stagnant, but somehow increasing. But after 2001, we can also see a bigger jump and increase in remittances. Most of it can be said that because of 9/11, most of the channels that were used previously, the Informa channels to send remittances, are now changed. So now people are sending remittances formally. So this is how that is increased. Why I am giving you this background? Because if you don't know this background, because when you're writing your own study, you also have this much clear-cut background in your mind. And if you don't have this clear-cut background in your mind, you will not be in a position to draw graphs from the data sets that you have. So this graph is basically telling us for a period of time, let's say from 1970s till today, almost 4 decades, how much Pakistani labor force has migrated to West Asia and how much remittances we got in return. So here on the left axis or on y axis, and this is our x axis, we have got log. Title is missing, and what are these? We are unable to mention. Again, where did we get this data from? Source is missing. So these are some of the simple mistakes that normally students do when they are writing their dissertation. So this is the thing that one has to avoid when he or she is writing dissertation. So this is one of the very important thing, and this is we have just seen that we have to give a brief, clear and descriptive title. So let's see, we have any? It's missing. We have to give the unit of measurement. We have to state it clearly. So log, even if it is log, is it at base 10 or natural? So what is that? And also sources of data used, you have to clearly state. There is no source mentioned that from where do we get this data of migration and the remittances. And are there any notes to explain abbreviations and unusual terminology? So maybe remittances is not that common and unusual term, so you can explain what are remittances. So it is the money or other forms of gift or wealth sent by migrants at their home, something like that. I'm just giving you a rough idea of that you can have, and that's definitely you have to put under the table somewhere here so that your table can look like nicely. Also, the thing that we have to cover is that why we have taken log, while migration might be in numbers like 3,000 people have migrated, 4,000 people have migrated, and remittances might be in US dollars. Just to compare them, we have taken log and we can compare it now. What if we don't want to take log of these two variables? And what if we can be in a position not to compare these two but put them separately as two graphs and then see these two graphs differently. So these are the things that you can think differently, but these things you can think only for numerical data. That is the advantage of numerical data, that once you have your data numerical, you will be in a good position to play it nicely. For example, what you can do with this numerical data, with this graph, you can make two different graphs. For example, what you can do, you can make one graph here and two graph here. This is figure 1, this is figure 2. This is number in millions of migrants. This is years, so 19 72, 2011, 90, and 2000, and this is your graph. This is migrants. Now here you can have remittances in US dollars. Here you can have years as time. You can start with 1972, you can end up as 2011. Here you can have 1980, 90, 2000, and here this is, you can make your graph for remittances. What we did, we actually combined by taking log of this, which is in million of numbers, versus this, which is in dollar terms. When we take log, they become similar. They become comparable. Either you can make these two graphs, or you can actually compare them by taking log. But then you have to explain under this that you are taking log for a comparison perspective, and that is log on either natural log or it is at base 10. If you can clarify these things, your figure is, or diagram or graph is easily understandable and easily interpretable in simple way, and those who don't be in a position to meet you can see your graph in your dissertation, or unable to hear your presentation, they can see your graph and easily understand how your graph describes the data that you want to explain. And for this thing, you have to have clear-cut title, which is missing here. You have to have unit of measurement, which is missing on both x and y axis. Here, y axis we don't know, x axis we don't know what is 2002, maybe Pakistani rupees or a year. Then we are not in a position to provide source of data, and third, we are not in a position to describe the unusual term, let's say remittances and migration. So these four things were missing from this graph, which we must not miss, so that we can easily get to know what we are doing and how we are doing. We have to understand from our basic analysis that if basic analysis is flawed or missing these basic things, then you can get a huge comment on your dissertation. Before I end up, I just want to summarize by saying that today we have learned a great deal of understanding what kind of data we can get when we collect data through questionnaire for particular variables of our interest, and this can be categorized into categories and numerical. And within numerical, we have seen that we have four kinds of data that we can actually get. It can be a ratio or interval, it can be discrete or continuous. And then we have categorical data. Within category, we can have dichotomous, we can have ranked order, or we can have nominal order data. And these data sets actually help us to understand what kind of analysis we can easily do at basic level in graphical or tabular form from our data that is available with us for various variables. And secondly, we have also learned that there are problems when we present our graphical analysis or tabular analysis in our dissertation in tables and graph forms. What are these? Number one, we somehow miss clear-cut and brief title. Either the title is too long, either it is not clear, or sometime we miss title. Secondly, we are unable to explain what is the unit of measurement that we are using for that particular data. Like for in our example, we were missing what is on our y-axis, what is on our x-axis. Then we somehow miss to show what are the sources from where we get this data. So where do we get the data of number of migrants for various years? Where do we get the data of remittances coming to Pakistan for various years from Middle East or West Asia? So we have to show the source also. If we are in a better position to make our graphs and tables, we'll be in a better position to present our analysis, basic statistical analysis, descriptive statistical analysis in a way that is understandable to most of those who cannot hear us while we are presenting or cannot be in a position to meet us, but they can see our dissertation, report or research paper and can understand it easily. What does we mean when we are making this graph? What does we mean when we are making this particular table? Before I finish, I'd say that we have to focus on these quantitative and qualitative analysis as much as we can, so that we understand, while with the very much efforts, the scientific and rigorous efforts that we have put in our data collection, and we are at the stage that we have collected data, now we have to examine the data. And that's also the most serious stage, where we are now sitting on desk, getting our data, keeping our research question and objective in front of us, trying to analyze data sets, the data through using various softwares. And we have to keep in mind that basic summary or descriptive statistics is very important to get a taste of what kind of data we have, how we can analyze them, and what are the basic information that we get from the data. Like for example, in our example of income, we have shown that we can divide into 4 categories of income, and we can describe them, how many male and female belong to that category, and how many married and unmarried male and female can belong to this category. And we can combine all this information in one simple table that can be self-explanatory but gives a very rich and huge information to those who want to see or understand that table. So these are the things that we have to keep in mind before we finish or before we start our quantitative analysis. I stop here and we will start again from the quantitative analysis, and we'll see what are the difficulties when we make graphs, what are the problems when we make tables, how to avoid them, how to make them more crispy, presentable and understandable. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you in next lecture. Khuda Hafiz.